Chair, what do we do? What is the time for rebuttal speeches then? Chair, could you please explain the agenda? I was not audible. What is this? Chair, please, some easy topic. I'll tell you in a sec. Just wait.
Pranad, are you okay with me going against the motion?
Yeah, works.
All right. Chair, when do we have to start our speeches? Can we start at 8:25? I feel like that would be okay.
I need some time.
We can prep till 8:25 and then see if any of us need more time.
Works. Chair, just to confirm, sorry, there's like a lot of background voice near me because like what there's some DJ playing, but never mind. Yes, I just wanted to ask that just to confirm there would be 3 minutes of opening statements, then 1 minute or 2 minute break for just like preparing for the rebuttal speeches, and then we have 2 minutes of rebuttal speeches, right? And then we just end the debate. Okay, sorry, I just didn't see it. Sorry. No, this was the question. Yes.
Wait, just confirming because I'm against the motion. I have to say why those movements should tell the people to calm down, right? All right, great.
Chair, exactly in simple terms, what do the proposition needs to say? Could you please just like tell in what 2 to 3 Okay, works. I need more time.
I'm ready. Yeah, sure.
Yes. Chair, we are starting at 8:30, right? Okay, boys. Chair, we start right now, right? Yeah, I'll start on a self count. Yeah, I'll start on my self count of three, two, one. Ma'am, I strongly support this motion because I believe that real change doesn't come from staying quiet or being too polite. It comes from honest anger when people have been treated unfairly for a long time. Firstly, let's not forget Article 19 of the UDHR guarantees the right to freedom of self expression, which includes the right to express outrage. So, to the opposition who think movement should suppress anger, are you suggesting that people should stay silent when their rights are being trampled just to maintain a polite tone? Ma'am, movements don't begin in air conditioned office. They begin on the streets, and they begin with rage. When George Floyd was murdered, the world didn't whisper it. It screamed, and that scream led to police reform proposals in over 20 US states. That wasn't calm negotiation. That was public fury backed by facts, not violence. Anger wasn't the problem, it was the catalyst. Let's also talk about India's Nirbhaya case. It wasn't the peace march with balloons that shook parliament into amending rape laws. It was the collective anger of millions. Sorry, it was the collective anger of millions who said enough is enough. So ma'am, my opponents will tell you anger is dangerous, that it can derail the message. I remind them that the real danger is apathy. The real blunder, and let me highlight this clearly, is the assumption that systems will magically fix themselves if we just remain patient. Ma'am, if my opponents believe that anger should be not used in movements, then I honestly want to ask, how else do you expect people to react when they have been ignored for decades? You think they'll hold up a polite request letter and wait patiently? Let's use plain logic here. If someone is being treated unfairly again and again and no one listens, then anger is a natural and justified reaction. It is not wrong, it's human. And without that anger, people wouldn't even feel the need to fight back or speak up. So asking social movements to remove anger is like asking fire to not give heat. It is just simply doesn't make sense. So, to my dear opposition, you who say anger should be vilified, are you also vilifying the very force that brought us suffrage, civil rights, anti-apartheid, and feminist reform? Even the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights acknowledged in its 2019 review on protest movements that emotional expression, including anger, is a legitimate and essential part of a civic activism. If the UN doesn't have a problem with angry protesters demanding human dignity, why do you? Now the biggest blunder the opposition makes here is they confuse anger with hate or violence. Anger is not violence, it is an emotion. What we do with it's what defines a movement. We are not saying burn buildings, we are saying that light a fire in people's heart. Because truth is, no major social movement ever succeeded without first getting furious at injustice. So yes, ma'am, we believe that anger must not be suppressed. It must be channelized, because when injustice is loud, silence is not just peace, it's complicity. Thank you.
I'll start in three, two, and one. As the opposition, I strongly reject the motion that this House believes that social movements should catalyze anger among the participants rather than vilifying it. I fully recognize that anger is a natural response to injustice. When people are oppressed, ignored, or harmed, of course they feel angry. That's valid. But this debate isn't about whether anger exists, it's about whether movements should intentionally amplify it. And I say no, because doing so weakens movements emotionally, strategically, as well as publicly. Let me define the key terms. What do we mean by social movements? Social movements are organized efforts by groups to drive social or political change, such as Black Lives Matter, Extinction Rebellion, or the civil rights movement. To catalyze anger means to deliberately stir up and use rage as the core emotional fuel. To vilify anger means to discourage it as a primary strategy, recognizing its risk. First of all, anger might get people on the streets, but it doesn't keep them there. A 2017 study in the Journal of Social and Political Psychology found that activists driven by anger were 28% more likely to disengage when results were slow. Why? Because anger depends upon urgency. When changes take time, anger turns into burnout or hopelessness. Movements aren't fueled by fury, they're fueled by purpose. Think of the civil rights movements. Dr. King didn't amplify people's rage, he guided it into hope, dignity, and resilience. That emotional clarity helped the movement to endure for years, even in the face of brutal resistance. Secondly, anger is polarizing. A Carnage Endowment report found that movements using anger driven message were twice as likely to face violent state responses or internal fractures. Again, why? Because anger triggers fear. It paints issues in black and white. It is us versus them terms, which shuts down dialogue and invites repression. We've seen it play out. Peaceful protests like the Women's March gained massive public support, but angrier and more confrontational actions often received criticism, even when the cause was just. When movements feel like mobs, they lose legitimacy. People stop listening and start pushing back. Finally, anger hurts a movement's ability to persuade. A 2019 study from the Harvard Kennedy School showed that when protest messaging was angry, support from neutral views dropped by over 30%. But when framed with empathy and shared values, support increased. Social change isn't just about rallying your base, it is about convincing others to care. People don't respond to yelling, they respond to humanity and compassion, and that is what anger fails to communicate. I understand the temptation to embrace anger. When the system fails you, it feels empowering to shout, but shouting isn't doesn't like always change minds or laws. It burns fast and it fades. Movements need endurance, empathy, strategy, and resilience. So yes, you can feel the anger, but you cannot build a foundation for a social movement on it. That is why I proudly oppose this motion. Thank you.
Chair, can we just get 1 minute more? Chair, please, 1 more minute. Sorry.
No, wait. I have to go first, right? Yeah, I am ready. It's 1 minute, right? Yeah, all right. Okay, can I start?
Yes.
Wait, yeah. Okay. I'll start in three, two, and one. Honorable Chair, while my opponent argues that anger is a vital form of freedom of expression, and while emotional expression is important, freedom of expression does not mean social movements should deliberately fuel anger as their primary strategy. The United Nations upholds the right to peaceful protest, emphasizing that emotional expression must not escalate into actions that undermine constructive dialogue. They invoke George Floyd, saying that movements begin with rage, and that is true to an extent. But the sustained impact of Black Lives Matter came from a shift towards organized, strategic, and empathetic messaging that engaged a broad base, not from rage alone. Anger sparked the initial outrage, but it was a transition to hope and justice driven demands that kept the movement alive and effective. Furthermore, while anger is not equal to violence, studies from the Carnage Endowment reveal that anger driven rhetoric increases the chance of public backlash and harsh state repression. Even in peaceful protests, this backlash damages a movement's legitimacy and ability to achieve change. Lastly, they say that anger is a natural and justified reaction, which is completely true, but so are grief, fear, and hope. Movements that channel the emotions wisely, not just rage, build resilience and a broad public support. This is why intentionally catalyzing our anger is a flawed as well as risky strategy. This is why I'm proud to oppose the motion. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start on my. I'm audible, right? Or there is some background voice with me. Yeah. Okay. 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 I'll start on my self count of three, two, one. Ma'am, the opposition is clearly under the impression that anger is some kind of dangerous prison that must be avoided. But the truth is, anger, when directed with purpose, has created more change in this world than soft words ever have. Let's take the first point. Anger might get people on the streets, but not change anything. Ma'am, change begins on the streets. Without protest, there's no pressure. Without pressure, there's no reform. The Black Lives Matter movement started with people on the streets after George Floyd's death. It led to police reforms in several U.S. states, including bans on chokeholds. That wasn't a picnic; it was powered by anger, and it worked. Now they say Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't use people's rage. Let me correct that. Dr. King never rejected anger; he rejected violence. In fact, in his famous letter from Birmingham jail, he said that oppressed people must create constructive non-violent tension. And what's that tension? It is righteous anger, used calmly but powerfully. So claiming he didn't use anger is simply not true. Then comes their vague point about studying about a study saying that anger makes things worse. Ma'am, there is also studies that say anger builds solidarity. According to a 2019 study published in Nature Human Behavior, shared anger strengthens group identity and increases willingness to take action. So if they want to quote studies, let's quote all of them, not just ones that suit their argument. They say anger hurts a movement's ability to continue. Really, the farmers' protest in India lasted over a year, fueled by sheer anger against unfair laws. That movement didn't just survive; it succeeded. The government rolled the laws back. So clearly, anger didn't hurt it; it kept it alive. Then they say people respond to humanity, not anger. But ma'am, anger is a part of humanity. You can't separate the two. When people are angry, it means they care. Would you rather people feel nothing when injustice happens? That's not humanity, that's numbness. Finally, they say you can't build a movement on anger. Ma'am, tell that to women behind the hashtag Me Too movement, or the students for a march for our lives. These movements were not born from tea parties. They were born from pain, frustration, and yes, anger. They shook the world. So respectfully to the opposition, your problem isn't with anger. Your problem is with misunderstanding what anger really is. It is not chaos, it's energy, and when used it right, it changes history. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Could you like give the feedback through the chat? Because like, I have to be somewhere. I have to be somewhere. So could you like give the feedback in like a next debate or like through WhatsApp? You can like, I can like stay for like 2 3 more minutes and you can just give it right now.
Chair, could you please like turn off the recording? I just have some. I just have something. A question related to tomorrow, sir.